Did you know? Speedrunning's earliest beginnings can be traced back to Activision's 1980 Atari 2600 game, Dragster. Not only was Dragster one of the first commercial video games based entirely on beating a timer, but the game's instruction manual also challenged players to achieve a time of under 6 seconds. Anyone who sent Activision a picture of their sub-6-second time would join the company's world-class Dragster Club, making it the first video game included in a speedrunning contest as well. The concept of speedrunning would resurface for the 1990 Nintendo World Championships. According to the competition's rules, players had 6 minutes and 21 seconds to achieve the highest score possible across Super Mario Bros., Rad Racer, and Tetris. There were also score multipliers. For example, collecting 50 coins in Super Mario Bros. Gave a ×1 score multiplier. Completing the course in Rad Racer granted a ×10 multiplier, and getting a high score in Tetris gave a ×25 multiplier. Eric OmniGamer Koziel, author of Speedrun Science, commented on the event's impact. Koziel wrote, "Doing even reasonably well in Tetris would dwarf your combined score from the other two games. The strategy became to complete Super Mario Bros. And Rad Racer as quickly as possible. The final time limit also spurred competitors to play for speed in Tetris. The Nintendo World Championships had unintentionally included all the makings of a modern speedrun, learning the fundamentals behind your targeted games and mechanics, exploring strategies for optimizing the time taken, coming up with a best route, and then finally performing that route." However, speedrunning wouldn't truly take off until the release of Doom. Doom's contribution to the speedrunning scene came from it featuring savable gameplay demos. In short, a demo is a timed recording of every single input, all saved in order to a file. The demo file can then be reloaded into the game where it's played back, effectively producing a perfect recording. Demo files were commonly used in arcade games to record gameplay footage for attract modes, but Doom became one of the first games where players could make, share, and play back these demos. This was groundbreaking, as video capture and encoding tech was virtually non-existent at the time for hobbyists. The demo files' small size also made them easy to share online, which was essential due to the limited internet speeds of the time. The team behind Doom decided to include demos late in development, largely for kicks, and had no idea what impact it'd leave on the gaming community. Doom designer and coder John Romero recalled, "We thought that demos would be shared for skillful play, and we thought it'd be for showing really cool death matches. But we didn't think about it for speedrunning in particular, because speedrunning was not a thing we hooked into the game as a special way of playing it. Speedrunning was just a concept, and it wasn't a big thing back then either. It's something that some people did, but it was very rare." Following Doom's release, a few online communities formed around sharing demos. Many demos were shared for bragging rights, which led to the creation of challenge runs. Some were straightforward, such as beating any level with 100% kills, whereas others were more obtuse, like the Tyson Challenge. This challenge requires players to get 100% kills using only fists, chainsaw, the pistol, or the berserk power-up. When simply achieving these challenges was no longer impressive, players began to compete on who could complete them fastest. Romero stated, "Speed demonstrates your skill at the game. So you got 100 kills? And how fast? You didn't shoot anything with the pistol, but how fast did you get it done?" So speed was always the highest ranked thing without the score being any part of it. This is because it spoke to your knowledge of the game and how good you were. Anybody could achieve things slowly, but that's not competitive. One of the most important websites born during this time was CompeteN, which had an online leaderboard for all the Doom challenges players devised. Furthermore, each challenge was categorized and graded on speed, and runs could be easily submitted, verified, and watched by gamers from around the world. These features led CompeteN to become the first major organized speedrunning community in history. Doom's speedrunning scene continued to grow from there, but the next step in the sport came from another id Software game in 1996, Quake. Much like Doom, Quake allowed players to save and share demo files and, once again, online communities formed around sharing these demos. Among these websites was Nightmare Speed Demos, which hosted speedruns exclusively in the game's Nightmare difficulty setting. However, the website's creator, a speedrunner known as Nolan Radix Flug, and various members of his community found bigger aspirations. At the time, most demos only recorded speedruns of single levels, but Radix and 3 other speedrunners banded together to create a single demo file speedrunning the entirety of Quake. This was done by stitching together the demo files of the best individual runs for every level in the game to create a complete Quake speedrun known as Quake Done Quick. Radix said, "There was a team of 4 of us that did the first Quake Done Quick movie in early 1997. As a team, we came up with all kinds of tricks that I don't think an individual would have. Then we did Quake Done Quicker a few months later, and then Quake Done Quick with a Vengeance came a few years after that. Eventually, the Nightmare Speed demos, Quake Done Quick, and other Quake speedrunning communities banded together under a new website dubbed Speed Demos Archive in 1998. The website continued to serve as the major Quake speedrunning hub in the following years, but Speed Demos Archive eventually spread its wings with the help of Retro Studios' Metroid Prime in 2002. Radix was a huge Super Metroid fan who sent his best completion times to Nintendo Power in his youth, and was enamored by the Metroid Prime community on GameFAQs. The board found several tricks and sequence breaks to play the game faster. This, along with the Metroid 2K2 community, pushed Radix to complete a Metroid Prime speedrun. Radix said, "So I decided, gosh, I have this device I can use to capture video. I'm going to record myself playing Metroid Prime and see how fast I can do it." After about 3 months, I had completed my speedrun, and my time was 1 hour and 37 minutes. So I thought, well, now I have to publish this, but YouTube didn't exist. I did have this site called Speed Demos Archive, and that's nice and generic. It doesn't say anything about Quake in there, so I thought, I'll just post it there. Not only was his Metroid Prime speedrun 30 minutes faster than the prior best run, but it was also publicly available via direct feed video on a website with enough bandwidth to easily host it for all to enjoy. Although Radix originally just decided to host the run on his website out of convenience, the decision paved the way for a new age of speedrunning. Following the run's immense popularity, Speed Demos Archive began to accept runs from games besides Quake. While other speedrunning communities had their own websites, typically focusing on a single game or series, Speed Demos Archive became the major hub of the speedrunning scene for both PC and console games alike. The next chapter in the speedrunning scene came from Japan, after a gamer under the name Morimoto published a time attack video of Super Mario Bros. 3 online that took the internet by storm in 2003. The impressive speedrun used perfect jumps and glitches without a single mistake, beating the entire game in 11 minutes and 3 seconds flat. However, Morimoto later updated the description of the video stating the run had been achieved using speed hacks to slow the game down, and that they used countless emulator save states to achieve the result. This would be known today as a tool-assisted speedrun, or TAS. According to speedrunner PJ DeCaesar, the reveal proved to be polarizing, stating, "Morimoto's run was world-shaking when it came out. It was like, what, you can beat this game in 11 minutes? That's crazy. I just thought it was the coolest thing and I was interested in watching more videos like it." Then the classic misconception of TASes came out. Boo, he didn't play the game, he just stitched together a video frame by frame. In all actuality, Morimoto's run was far from the first TAS ever created. A website simply named Tool Assisted Speedruns, collecting such runs from games like Doom and others, existed 4 years earlier in 1999. However, the popularity of Morimoto's runs spread awareness of the speedrunning scene and opened up a new world of possibilities to speedrunners of the day. As emulators continued to grow, improve, and become more accessible into the mid-2000s, so did the TAS scene. Advancements like frame counters, frame advancing, memory viewers, lag counters, input editing, and more gave rise to better and better TASes as the year went on. Although the TAS and speedrunning scenes got off to a rocky start at first, relations warmed over time. TAS video co-owner Adelicat wrote, "Morimoto's TAS was often misunderstood to be a real speedrun. I think this led to speedrunners' initial impression of TASes as deceptive and cheating. I think better understanding has made that friction largely go away. TASes often serve as research and the proof of concept movies that speedrunners can take, adapt, and practice. In the early days, speedrunning wasn't very collaborative. These days, everyone is sharing ideas with everyone else. It truly is a communal effort. Everyone wants to see the best possible real-time and TAS movies and do what they can to contribute." Meanwhile, the decision to open Speedrun Demos Archive to any game quickly caused issues. Radix, who ran the site by himself at the time, was unable to confirm whether or not speedruns for games he wasn't familiar with were legitimate or used some kind of cheat. This initially forced Radix to only accept runs for games he personally knew, such as Quake, Doom, Half-Life, Super Metroid, Super Mario Bros., and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Regardless, even with this limited list, Radix struggled to keep up with the onslaught of speedruns that were constantly sent his way. Thus, the verification process was born, allowing others in the community familiar with the game to confirm if the run was legit or not. During this time, rules were established for what was and wasn't allowed in runs, and how runs were ranked on the archive. Some significant decisions included determining speedrunning categories for each game, only accepting direct game capture, thereby denying runs that used a camera pointed at the TV screen, and timing runs from the instant a player gained control of their character until they've lost it at the end of the game. These rules have continued to evolve over the years alongside advances in technology and the speedrunning scene overall. Although improvements in emulation, internet speeds, and video capture technology helped speedrunning become more accessible to more people, the impact these advancements had on the popularity of speedrunning paled in comparison to the dawn of live streaming. As live streaming took off in the late 2000s and into the 2010s, speedrunning rapidly transformed from a solitary hobby where runners spent weeks alone perfecting runs to a spectator sport. Eric Koziel wrote, "Chat services accompanying most broadcasts enabled direct interaction between runners and viewers, with questions and comments breaking up the sometimes tedious task of grinding away at a run. Speedruns themselves were still largely personal projects, but the act of finishing them was made that much more pleasant by sharing it with others. On the flip side, this loosened Speed Demos Archives' dominance in the speedrunning scene over the years. Runners who didn't like the website's rules or couldn't stand waiting for their run to be approved found instant gratification by streaming records online. In fact, as many runners developed fan bases to support them during record attempts, streaming rapidly became closely tied to the act of speedrunning itself. According to Koziel, anyone who ran games was almost expected to stream as well. But Speed Demos Archive wasn't done turning the speedrunning community on its head quite yet, as the website, or rather its community, led the charge into the next evolution of the scene: marathons. The Speed Demos Archive community weren't the first to come up with the idea. That honor goes to a group of speedrunners under the name the Speed Gamers, who were inspired by Desert Bus for Hope, an event by comedy troupe Loading Ready Run, where members live-streamed a marathon of the mini-game Desert Bus for charity. In March 2008, the Speed Gamers blasted through every single mainline Zelda game within 3 days live to raise money for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in the first speedrun marathon ever. The Speed Gamers followed this up with 7 more live marathons over the next 2 years. Although, while each event proved to be successful, they failed to break into the mainstream. Nevertheless, the idea inspired the Speed Demos Archives' community, including site administrator Mike Uyama. Uyama recalled, "In summer of 2009, people on the forums saw the Speed Gamers as marathons, and the community went, 'We should do these marathons ourselves.' When I stepped in, I said, 'Whoa, this is a good idea, but we need to give it some focus.' From here, Uyama decided the event should take place at the already established gaming convention MagFest, and that the games should focus on 8-bit and 16-bit games. This led to the name Classic Games Done Quick. Unfortunately, despite the group's best efforts, last-minute internet issues with the MagFest's hotel ultimately forced Uyama to cancel his convention plans and stream the event out of his mother's basement. Regardless, Classic Games Done Quick managed to raise $10,531 for charity over January 1st to the 3rd of 2010. Next, in 2011, the group returned under the new name Awesome Games Done Quick, allowing modern games into the marathon. The event was also extended to 5 days. This time around, the team managed to raise $52,519, nearly 5 times as much as the year prior. After this success, they were hooked. Uyama stated, "Right after the event, there was this realization that, hey, this was really fun. It had a real magic that speedrunning didn't have before. Let's do it again." I've made a lot of mistakes from each marathon, because there's always a growth and learning process. But I've also had a lot of success and grown the community a lot, because each marathon gets bigger and bigger. The organization reached a turning point at the Awesome Games Done Quick 2014, marking the first time charity donations broke into 7 figures, with a total of $1,031,665, as well as the first time spectating attendees outnumbered speedrunners. Today, Games Done Quick attracts thousands of attendees, hundreds of thousands of live viewers online, and millions of dollars every year. The numbers have continued to grow annually, with 50,000 donors banding together, giving $3,039,596 at Summer Games Done Quick 2019. Speedrunning's evolution hasn't ended with marathons either. The streaming age has helped many new and unique forms of speedrunning flourish, such as speedrun races. At its core, speedrun racing pits 2 or more speedrunners against one another to see who can beat a game the fastest in a single sitting. This brings a whole new dynamic to speedrunning, as restarting a run brings a heavy price, making certain tricks and glitches incredibly risky. While the speedrun racing scene is still somewhat new, a number of variations have already emerged. There are multi-game speedruns, where speedrunners race through a number of games in succession to see who can beat them all the fastest. There's also blind speedrun racing, where runners don't know, and often haven't even played, the games they race on. As well as randomized runs, where runners go through a classic game that's been modded, typically randomly switching out the locations of power-ups. Speedrunning has come a long way from its humble origins, and its future looks bright. Koziel concluded, "I don't ever see speedrunning dying off. The activity will continue to grow and change, but the competitive drive at its core is part of human nature. So long as humans are driven by a need to develop and improve skills, there will always be room to add a timer on top to measure just how well it can be done." Did you also know that 50 Cent was rumored to voice Epona in Twilight Princess? Or that an official Nintendo website lied about Dragonite evolving into Yoshi? For more facts, check out our videos on Zelda rumors and Pokémon rumors.